The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
You may now welcome me into the club of American gun owners.
Yay! High five! Welcome to the club. It's nice, isn't it?
If it wasn't 2020, I might not have done it.
It's been a shitty year, and there's over 7 million first-time gun owners.
Let me walk you through this. Years ago, when I was in cop school, I applied for my permit to purchase, and I went to Sportsman's Warehouse in Coon Rapids at their former location that is now a Dick's Sporting Goods. And I was there, and I was just looking at the guns, and I mentioned to the guy that I was in school, and he's like, well, you'd have to get permission from your commanding officer. I'm like, no, I'm not hired yet, dude. He's like, oh. And then I took the gun, and I dry fired a couple, like 2, 3. He's like, what are you doing? You're going to ruin the firing pin. I wasn't very experienced with guns. I don't think he needed to flip out. He could have been like, whoa, hang on. I can get you some plastic caps, some...
Yep, a fake bullet that's got a little spring where the primer would normally be, and that would keep you from running the trigger. Yep.
So naturally, it felt to me then that if you're going to buy a gun, you're going to want to know how smooth of a trigger pull it is.
Yes, but I mean, I think every gun I bought so far, I've never pulled the trigger on it until I actually get it to the range and try firing it.
Well, it's different because I bought a revolver. And we'll get back to that more in a minute as to why. But, so I was in college when I last was thinking about it. And I've been anti-gun for a long time. And then all the shit with George Floyd happened. And then they were fucking rioting. And the riots were moving out this direction from Minneapolis towards the suburbs. And I went, oh shit.
Yeah.
We're already in a pandemic. We already dealt with the toilet paper thing and the canned good rush. What the fuck else is going to happen? They tried to drive a goddamn car through the doors of the Northtown Mall Burlington Coat Factory, which just should suggest to you the level of socioeconomic status of these people involved.
Yeah, they go to Burlington Coat Factory.
Rich people do not shop at Burlington.
No, I will never shop there again, even though I'm not rich.
Sorry. So I got my permit to purchase, and then I went to the store, and I looked at some guns, but I didn't end up buying. Because what I wanted was a 9mm that did not have a fucking trigger safety. Because that just feels weird to me. I want the push button safety.
Yeah, I can give you my experiences on that in a bit.
Well, have at it.
Okay, so I've always been a fan of the push button safety.
Traditional.
And
a lot of guns now are going to that trigger safety.
Yeah, typically those are dual action, and they're striker fired instead of the traditional hammer. Because my concealed carry P938 is a hammer fired weapon. It's got a separate thing for safety, so it's what I liked. But the pistol that I recently purchased, that Canic, that's a lot like a Glock. There is no safety. It's striker fired, it's dual action, and the safety's built into the trigger. And I've taken it to the range and shot it twice now. I've even loaded it up, and it came with a holster, and I put it on my hip, and I kind of walked around the house with it for, about a half hour. And it's just like, it's really not that unsettling, because, I mean, if you follow the basic rules of handling a weapon, a firearm, it shouldn't be an issue. Granted, I've never had to quick draw it and see what happens if I do that, but...
So the night that I went to purchase the gun, it was, get this, election night.
Really?
I went to vote, and then I went to the store, and I was just like, you know what? Show me revolvers. He's like, why revolvers? I'm like, because I'm guessing that if you have them, they're not going to have a trigger-based safety. He's like, okay. Yeah. He's like, what else are you looking for? I'm like, well, and this is going to sound terrible, but you don't leave behind a bunch of ballistic evidence for them to run through if you don't have to worry about picking up shell casings, right?
That's true.
He's like, it's true. Like, not that I'm insinuating I'm thinking of committing a crime. I'm just saying, at the range, there's no hot brass flying around.
Yeah, I've had that hit me on the arm. I've had it go down the back of my shirt.
Well, I've told this story before. Back in cop school, we were on the range in Burnsville, and every time we'd get there, everybody would race for the end all the way on the left, knowing that they wouldn't get hit with hot brass. Because the shit always ejected to the right,
Yeah.
and it would cross over into the next lane, and I'd see it and I'd flinch because it would
Didn't
come
they
at
have
me.
walls in between each spot?
They did, but they're not very big. They should have been bigger.
Okay, because the only indoor... I've only been to one indoor range, but, I mean, that thing is fucking floor to ceiling, and it's 3 feet wide, at least.
These were not, plus I have long, alien-like arms. Each of my arms is 3 feet long.
Say what?
Yes. Both of my arms, from armpit to fingertip of my middle, are 3 feet long.
Okay.
So I was hanging out more, maybe. But the time that I'm getting at here is the brass came over the wall and went just enough to get down in my goggles, my safety glasses,
Mm-hmm. I remember telling
but
you the story,
not
yeah.
burn my face. So I immediately just held my gun up and I looked down and it was like rolling right in front of my eye. And I'm like, holy shit. And the teacher ran over and he's like, oh, okay, are you good? I'm like, I stopped him from grabbing my gun and I took them and I shook it out and then I put them back on. That was a fucking close call.
That was pretty close.
And, it comes to a shootout. Well, first I have to get you in 6 shots or reload or possibly I'm fucked. But I don't have to worry about any hot brass shooting out at the range. Yeah. So anyways, election night, I didn't know what was going to happen. There was a lot of unease on election night. You weren't sure if Biden was going to win, if Trump was going to eke out a win, if Trump was going to magically win in a landslide that I would have been like, hold the fucking phone. What just happened? Do I need to move to Canada because can that many people be assholes? You have to admit, his base is a very special type.
No, I don't think it is.
At least 25% of his base are these fucking pissed off, white, God-fearing, gun-happy sons of bitches. No matter where it was going to shake out, 50% of the population was going to be really pissed off. And then a small segment of that 50% might be the kind that shows up on government building property and stands on the front steps, fucking packing heat and wearing goddamn vests. And they said that a record amount of background checks were performed this year compared to last year and the year. Like, holy shit, are people buying guns en masse?
Yeah.
Everything going on, COVID, the election. We don't know when anything is going to shake out to, air quotes, normal again. So people were getting guns like crazy.
7 million first-time gun owners.
And I'm one of them. So I guess I worried enough that I needed something.
I still have my AR-15 locked and loaded.
Do you?
Yeah. Don't trust the current climate right now.
Doesn't really make sense with how long that thing is.
The AR-15?
Well, I'm just saying, here's a scenario for you. You hear somebody in the house skulking
This
about...
isn't for somebody in the house. This is
Okay.
for what's going on outside the house. I have my concealed carry pistol for in the house.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if you come out of your bedroom with your AR-15 and you go to, you're low ready to ready, someone just grabs it and shoves it away, and God knows where it goes. To the floor, into their hands, they grab it. You never know. That's why it makes more sense for just a pistol, and why I don't have, like my kids. Somebody gifted me a 6-foot-long fucking samurai sword from my old karate class. Those are meant to be used Bushido style on the battlefield,
yeah.
and you run with it and you drag it and you get one upward swipe at an angle. And if you miss with that, you're fucked.
Yeah.
All right, and even with a katana blade.
I'm still a believer that if somebody did come in my house in the middle of the night and they're snooping around, it would be one of two things. Either you just got to action the slide, or on action the bolt, or a shotgun, pump the shotgun, and they're probably going to leave quickly.
Well, hopefully.
Because if they hear those clicking noises that can only be described as a gun being readied, they're going to run. I've seen a lot of security footage, people breaking the house in the middle of the night, and as soon as they know there's a gun in that house that's being used, they run.
Yeah. Especially if you fire off a warning shot.
The one that I watched, it was a while ago, it was actually in South Africa. And 3 gentlemen broke into the house in the middle of the night, and they had security camera poised so you can see the front door and the stairway and everything. And they sneak in, and one goes downstairs, one goes upstairs, and the one comes from downstairs. He's got like a cord or something in his hand now, so he must have found like an extension cord. And all of a sudden, you see like dust fall from the ceiling, and you see these 3 guys running out that fucking door like a bolt of lightning, and you see a girl come out with a gun in her hand. I don't even know if she pulled the trigger.
Well, one could argue that you could get by with blanks to scare off an intruder. You just fire off a couple of warning shot blanks.
Well, if you ask Joe Biden, you should buy a shotgun. And if someone does attack your house, you should go out on your back step or your back porch and fire 2 blasts into the air. And that would be all you need. Except for what he told you to do is illegal.
Well, in a perfect world. I hate that there's laws against warning shots. Sometimes you need that shit.
Yeah, I remember we discussed a while ago the castle doctrine in this state, and I think it's bullshit. We still don't have one.
Well, you never know.
It could happen. We just need to get some anti-gun people out of legislature, that's all.
I bought a .38. It's what they had on hand. I was texting you
Expensive
while
ammo.
I was there. And one thing that sold me on the particular one I bought was you made comment about the grip and whether or not it had room to hold the pinky or if the pinky felt like it was sliding off.
Yeah, it's very important in my opinion that all 5 of your digits are on that gun. It just seems to me that gives it the best control.
Yeah.
Because even if you're in a situation where you can't have 2 hands on, like even if your pinky slides off, well, now you got that awkward thing where these hands are wrapped, but your pinky's kind of just floating, and then you put your hand to wrap your fingers of your pistol hand, but this pinky just seems like it's in the way.
Yeah.
So, for my concealed carry, it came with a 6-round magazine. I immediately bought 2 7-round magazines because there's an extra spot for my pinky on the bottom.
Ah, functionality.
Weapon control is very important.
How many of your guns do you have in a safe?
All but my concealed carry.
Okay, and that one, do you have a
It's
lock on it?
I have a big safe, and then I got a little tiny safe next to my bed.
Okay.
So, and the keys here.
What if you don't have your keys handy?
The keys are in my bedroom every night.
Okay. Because one thing my wife said, and I wasn't going to tell her I bought it for a while, because I didn't want her to be like, oh my God, why would you do that? You're so against guns. You didn't want to have guns because of the kids. And I'm like, well, 2020's changed a lot of shit, And I don't think that 2021 is going to be this magic flip of the calendar cure-all for what's ailing this country right now, or the world in general. Assume that with the transfer of power and whatever's going to happen January 20th might not be so smooth. And then this whole vaccinating people thing, there's no telling what corners were cut to slam bang these things through and which one is better than the other and who's going to get them and who's not.
Not to mention the change of power. With that new power comes the, guns are a U.S. health crisis, so be ready for them to try to take the gun you just purchased.
Why?
Because that's what they've been vowing to do for the last fucking 10 years. Especially him.
I thought he said, I don't want to take your guns.
No, have you not been reading articles lately? It's the Sandy Hook anniversary.
Yeah.
Him and Kamala are saying, well, we should pass gun control legislation. We need to get guns off the streets. We need to take people's guns. And he's vowed it many times. Granted, on the campaign trail, he seemed to change his story and he flip-flopped a lot. But, I mean, overall, his whole career, he's been very anti-gun.
Yeah, well, last I read is that he's like, I don't want to take your guns. That's a lie. What I want to do is close the loopholes for the background checks.
What, at gun shows?
I don't know. I'm just quoting you.
Because I bought mine at a gun show, and they give you a background check.
Right.
They can't. It's federal violation if they don't give you a background check.
Well, there's always going to be people that are selling guns with, filed off fucking serial numbers to some dipshit.
Not at gun shows.
Not at gun shows.
You meet some guy in the alleyway, it's like, okay, those you can't stop. Those are always going to happen. I mean, how the fuck do you stop them? You can't.
Well, point being, shit finally got crazy enough that I felt the need to have to, pun intended, pull the trigger on this purchase. I'm not going to go crazy and like buy other guns.
No, if you just want the one for protection, one's all you need.
Yeah. The only other thing I would maybe get is a shotgun, also for protection.
I bought a shotgun for trap shooting. I find that to be very fun. I'm not great at it, but I enjoy it.
It always made my shoulder feel like shit.
After 3 rounds, 75 shots, yeah, my shoulder starts to hurt, but it's still fun.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number 1 fan Tim.
And that's the end.